The diversity of food, which was fascinating to me, and the good food, but also that when you sat down at a table with people, a lot of borders between people were broken, and people started relaxing and talking together.
Today on Dirty Linen, we are really honoured to have a special guest from the US. Joan Nathan is a contributor to the New York Times, to many other publications. She is the author of a dozen books on Jewish cooking and exploring the rich heritage and contemporary expression of Jewish food in all kinds of places around the world. She is multi-awarded and in high demand, so it is really an honour to welcome you, Joan, to Dirty Linen.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here.
How is your trip in Australia?
Oh my God, it is fabulous, quite fabulous. The markets, the produce, especially the red rhubarb at this time of year. I love it. I've never seen such robust rhubarb. It's amazing. Everything has been, I had never expected to go to Australia, and here I am.
Wow. And how have you found Jewish food culture so far on your trip?
Well, so far it's been really interesting that it's, in a way, in some of the more religious areas, it's like a throwback to what it must have been in Poland before the war. And that, for me, as somebody who writes about Jewish food, is very, very interesting. So I'm learning every moment.
Wow. It's so great. I mean, the thing that I love about working in food is that you just are always given opportunities to learn. So it's incredible to think that even when you're such an authority that there's still, fresh bites to find in different places.
Well, it's a funny thing that you should say that, because I realize I've been doing this since like 1970s, and I get a kid's excitement every time I find a new recipe or new old recipe that I can make up to date for my readers. And I don't know if you feel like that too, but that's what happens to me, and I love it. I love it still.
Well, definitely. I think food is such a way, it's such an expression. It's all about, there's so much connection and heritage in it, but it is also such a beautiful way to bring a very present joy. It's got this, awesome ability to be, connect us through time, but also be, very much in the moment.
Right, exactly. And I'm very much looking forward to trying some of or seeing what cakes people bring to me at this food festival, to see what from the past is there.
Yeah, well, I think so many Jewish families in Australia have, a cake recipe that's been handed down and treasured. And I mean, it's in some cases adapted. Perhaps someone thinks there's too much sugar in it, or someone then becomes gluten-free. So I think, there's always these, sites of adaptation and tweaking, but then, a rich connection to old stories. So, Joan, we're going to, we're talking around the time of Hanukkah, and I thought it would be wonderful for you to give a real introduction to this important Jewish festival for people who perhaps know nothing about what it means and what the food traditions are around it.
Well, it's the festival of freedom and the festival of lights. It started in ancient Israel, where the Israelites won over the Assyrians, and they only, this is sort of a story. They only had enough light in the synagogue for one day, and it lasted for 8 days. But really, I think of it as a holiday of lights, because the menorah, first of all, the ancient menorahs were olive oil. Olive oil was light, it was heat, it was cooking in the ancient world. And so it was the end of the olive oil harvest. So that's really what I think that they were celebrating. It was because most of the holidays were around some sort of harvest. So if you go way back, it's the winter solstice. And it was very important at that period of time for light. Nobody had electric lights or anything like that. And so there are many different things that are celebrated that eaten at Hanukkah. One of them is a jelly donut. And that's actually the most modern and also the most ancient dish. It was something that was eaten in Greece, lokomades, and it went all over the world. And Jews came to Poland and other places and ate ponchki, which are jelly donuts. And they brought them to Israel, and they changed the name of it to something Hebrew, which was sufgan, which came from the Greek, meaning sponge. And they were filled sponge donuts, and that's what they eat in Israel. But now, of course, there's not just filled with strawberry jam, but with all kinds of fillings all over the world. And that's really interesting. The other thing is they always ate latkes, which were like maybe made out of flour and just any kind of grain that they could fry because people didn't have anything else. Or there was a cheese, sort of like a very sour cheese. And then when potatoes came in Eastern Europe, they started using potatoes in their pancakes, as everybody did. And these, because they were fried in oil, were something that you would eat at Hanukkah. And that's what people eat at Hanukkah, potato pancakes. So, it sort of food has transformed the holiday. The other thing is that you light a candle each night for each day. And the children love this. And they play with dreidels. Now, I don't know if in Australia it's like this, but where I live in the United States, because it comes around Christmas, it's become more of a major gift holiday, and which I don't love as a mother and a grandmother, because I hate to buy presents, kind of dumb presents. But, so it's been more given more importance. It was a minor holiday, but it's given more importance in lands where Christmas there's so much made of Christmas.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it is the same in Australia, where Hanukkah, I think, has come to greater prominence exactly because it's proximity to Christmas. So it's sort of been elevated. But I do love this idea that we're celebrating oil and things cooked in oil because of this miracle of the lamp that kept burning. And it is really nice to reflect on olive oil as, that it's one of its prime uses was providing light. I think we've definitely lost touch with that part. I think as we've fallen more and more in love with olive oil, we've definitely, been very out of touch with one of its original uses.
Right. And, also here I am in Australia, and I hope to go visit the olive oil growers in Tasmania when I'm there.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, it's so wonderful to hear that you're making it to Tasmania. Where I'd say it's a much smaller community generally than a smaller Jewish community, but so much beautiful food and wine to explore, and so much incredible nature.
Yeah, and one thing that's really been so impressive to me are your amazing markets. I was at the one, is it called Prahan, Prahan?
Oh, Paran, yeah. It's a hard one to say.
Oh my God, it's fabulous. And also the one in Sydney, Carriage Work. They're just amazing and beautiful. It makes you want to just spend lots of money.
Well, people certainly do that when they can at those markets. Yeah, it's definitely an easy place to spend money. And I think always when you're coming from the Northern Hemisphere as we come into our summer, I'm sure, as you mentioned the rhubarb, I'm sure there's a lot of fruits and vegetables that are looking pretty luscious as you exit the colder climes. Yeah. So, Joan, I'd love to just learn a bit more about you. Tell us how you started as a food writer.
Well, I always liked to eat. And, even as a kid, and I'm actually doing a memoir right now so I've been reflecting on this. But my father was from Germany, and he sent me to France as a young girl. He said I had to learn French And when I got to France, this was when I was like 17 years old or 16 years old, I just couldn't believe the food. And then later I went to Israel and I worked for Teddy Kollek, the mayor of Jerusalem. And when I was there, I was his foreign press attaché. This was in my 20s. I just noticed that there were all kinds of traditions. There were like 70 different countries coming to Israel, plus the Arabs from different communities and Christians from different sects. It was just fascinating. And because he was the mayor of Jerusalem, we would go to visit everybody. And I noticed two things. Noticed the diversity of food, which was fascinating to me, and the good food, but also that when you sat down at a table with people, a lot of borders between people were broken. And people started relaxing and talking together. So that's been something that it's been in the back of my mind, and I've always tried when I'm writing about people to not just talk to them on the phone, but to interview them in person, because so many barriers were broken. And I learned so much more about the food than just the ingredients. And that's what's made, I feel, my career so very rich. Because, I learned, like I went to an Iraqi home in London. And I learned, how people lived like 30 people in a house, and how they preserve food throughout the year. And they went to, details that I, wrote down and preserved. And that's what I've been doing since 1970s.
Yeah. I mean, do you feel like there is an overall project through all your different books and articles?
Well, I think, yeah. And I mean, I don't write just about Jewish food. I write a lot about ethnic, undiscovered people and undiscovered food. That's what really turns me on, rather than going to a fancy restaurant and writing about it. But I think it's connection with people. I think that's the most important thing to me, and getting people's stories out there. I don't know what's the most important thing for you. I hear you do great things.
Well, hopefully that's true. I think the most important thing for me is, I don't know, for me, I feel privileged that you get to go straight to the heart of somebody's life and their story, because food is central. Food is something that people carry with them from, other places and other eras. So, yeah, I think for me, it's about that connection with people and having this really expressive, daily, essential medium, which is food, as this vehicle to tell those stories.
Absolutely. It's just amazing how much. And then also people relax when they're talking to you, and they'll tell you other stories that connect to the food, connect to their lives.
Yeah. I mean, food is so intertwined in every aspect of society, like, politics and social justice and immigration and the environment. So I just feel like it's a shortcut to get to the core of what's really important.
Oh, I like that. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what I've been trying to do forever.
I love that. It's just the best project. So I think, I feel like it's important to touch on anti-Semitism, because there is more of it around now. I don't know if it's that it's more present or people feel emboldened to be anti-Semitic, but how do you see what you do as having a role in breaking down, hatred and prejudice and, Holocaust denial and, all those terrible things?
Well, I think, first of all, not only is anti-Semitism up, but bigotry in general is up. So that's
that's really important to say that. Absolutely.
But what I try to do is, I don't know, I just keep going along. And I feel as if there's really nothing that you can do about bigotry. But if you let's say you go into a recipe, like somebody just called me. She's doing a recipe for the LA Times for Christmas on potato dumplings. Her family is German, not Jewish, of course. And we talked for a long time about them because I know them from Jewish Germans, right? And by doing that, we learned similarities, and we connected as human beings. And I think that's the most important thing that you can do is talk about these things. And it might be a good idea to have like dinners occasionally with, let's say, Jewish, Christian, I don't know, Aborigine, everybody together to talk, what's important to women, what's important to men. I mean, I'm thinking more about women than men, because women can get to men, just breaking down all these barriers. That's the important thing to do. And I don't know, I think most people are really good people. Most people don't want to have hate in their heart. And the others, what are we going to do with them? I just lead my life.
I agree with you. I think the vast majority of people are like incredibly good and loving and caring. But I think also, people are also vulnerable and susceptible to having bad ideas embedded in them somehow. So I agree that sitting around a table and sharing and connecting is a great way to break it down. I guess sometimes I worry we just aren't able to get people to the table.
Right. And, sometimes people will ask what I am when I'm speaking to them. And then if I say that I'm Jewish, they'll say very often, okay, it's like they didn't really know many Jews. But I feel as if you are what you are, then just be who you are, and I think you'll get by very well. And give them some good food, have them try something that makes them calm down.
What are some dishes or recipes or ingredients that you're really excited about at the moment?
Well, I guess I should go back to rhubarb because I'm always excited about rhubarb.
Yes, I love rhubarb. Please tell me what you would do with it.
Well, last night I was at this restaurant here called Gray and Gray.
Oh, great. I'm so happy you went there.
Well, and they had a rhubarb sauce over. Most of your listeners probably don't like tongue, but I happen to like tongue. And it was so delicious and so bright red that I thought, oh boy, because I make it in, I have a rhubarb sauce over fish, which is from the island of Rhodes. And I have, a rhubarb and spinach soup from Lithuania. And, these are on my regular repertoire because I have a lot of rhubarb and sorrel in my garden. And of course, rhubarb pie I love, but I like rhubarb rather than strawberry rhubarb. That's one thing, but I don't know. There's so many. Let me just think of what else I'm excited about. Oh, I liked I can't wait to try some of your, what's the kind of apples,
pink lady apples?
Yes, they're delicious. And I want to try making a pie with them because I love, at this time of year, I love apple pies. And I know that I'm going to be, that I'd like making those. And also the different kinds of fish were extraordinary that I tasted. There's just so much new things here for me. And I was really happy to learn that, is it barberries are growing in Tasmania? I like barberries. And, I know, poppy seeds in Tasmania. And I ground some poppy seeds yesterday at a coffee shop in Caulfield. I forget where. And I'm going to make arugula with chocolate and poppy seed, like a mash. and I think they're going to be delicious. A recipe that I just learned in Warsaw. I've been traveling a lot.
That is amazing because, I mean, yeah, rogalach with chocolate. So just for people who don't know, rogalach are like a sort of, I guess, a pastry twist, you would say, like almost like a mini croissant, but more with a dough. It's not a... Is it a yeasted dough?
Well, it can be a yeasted dough. What I'm learning here from some of these pastry shops is that it's really can be like the same dough that you use for challah, the same dough you use for babka, and then you can just twist it in a different way. However,
I think, yeah, mostly I see it here with that sort of babka yeasted dough, like a...
Right, but in Poland today, it's a farmer's cheese dough, and in the United States, I don't know if you have cream cheese or Philadelphia cheese. It's an easy dough to make, and it's you roll it out. It's cream cheese, butter, and flour, and you roll it out into a round, and then you smear on it whatever your filling is going to be, either chocolate but I've never seen chocolate and poppy seed together. And it seems to be either you're a poppy seed lover or a chocolate lover, but this one everybody will love. And then what you do in the States is you smear it on, and then you then you cut it in like 16 pieces, and you roll each one up like a crescent, and then you bake them. And that's the Americanization of rugelach.
I'm pretty excited by this idea of chocolate and poppy seed because, yeah, I would say, yeah, like a babka or a strudel, it's like one or the other. But yeah, I mean, let's put them together. I think that's going to amplify the joy.
Yeah, exactly. Amplify the joy. But I did try it once, half, because the recipe that was sent to me was half chocolate and half poppy seed, but that's not going to work. It's better to have more poppy seed and less chocolate because the chocolate seems to take over. So that's my recipe of the moment. I'm also, what I learned from some of the women here is that you take I think you take grated apples instead of cut up apples, which I do in something called a Jewish apple cake. And I'm going to try it with the grated apples, and you put flour in it. And in the States, you put orange juice, and they call it Jewish apple cake because you put oil in it. And, I've learned this recipe from church cookbooks in the States, but not with grated apples. And that seems to be very Polish. So I'm going to try it with grated apples and see how it works.
I reckon they would just melt through. It'll be so delicious.
Yeah, exactly.
Joan, I want to ask you about my Hungarian grandmother's sweet pasta bake to see if you've heard of this recipe, because I don't know if it comes from anywhere or if she made it up, but it's basically flat egg noodles that are stirred through with poppy seeds and usually apricot jam, put into a dish, cream is poured over, and then it's baked. So it becomes like this crunchy, soft, sweet lasagna type concept, but with poppy seeds and jam.
Oh, well, will you please send me that recipe? I'll tell you what I have heard from Hungarian, where you take those same egg noodles. This is just another way of turning noodles into something delicious. Okay, if you take poppy seeds and onions, sautéed onions, and a little bit of sour cream, and you stir it all together. That's a very Hungarian dish, but it doesn't sound as delicious as yours.
Yeah, well, it was a dessert that we would have from time to time, and I've never seen it written down anywhere. But I thought if anyone's going to know, it's you.
No, but I can find it out for you. I can look. But what about, I have all the Hungarian cookbooks, and I know the Hungarian writers. Oh, the other thing that I'm very interested in, then I just saw that here. I've seen it twice. Is it called Mudvanik? It's like a honey cake that was very popular during the Soviet times. And it's about 10 layers with sour cream in between them, or a sour cream mix. But originally it was like a cream of wheat. I don't know if you've ever heard of cream of wheat here mix. And it's really delicious. I saw it actually at Gray and Gray last night, but I've seen it in the markets too. And it also in Caulfield, I saw it at a bakery. There's a Russian bakery. That's really a delicious cake, and I've been looking at precursors of that cake that are sort of like a gingerbread crust.
Ooh, I'm really excited for you because we've got such beautiful honey here, and honey, made by bees that forage native flowers like gum tree flowers and those kinds of things. So I would love you to experience one of those traditional cakes made with some of these floral honeys. That would be a bit of a spin on it.
Oh, where can I see that?
I don't know. I feel like I need to make it for you.
I think we'll just have to meet.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. But this is it. I think getting around the table, as you say, is always better. Joan, it's just been such an absolute privilege to chat to you today. I'm really thrilled that you're finding so many delicious things in Australia. And I look forward to seeing where the inspiration takes you, perhaps with future recipes, stories, and publications.
Oh, well, thank you. I really would very much like to meet you. And I realize that what I like to do most of all is sort of like an inspector, like a Miss Fisher of food.
I love that, walking around with our magnifying glasses and and of course our hungry bellies.
Right, exactly.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Joan. It's been a pleasure. This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinenat deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.
This